Hi, my name is Yarrow Willard from Harmonic Arts, and I am here today making a tonic elixir for my family. Every morning on our trip here in Mexico, we've been enjoying the tonic elixirs. We've been making up a bunch of different recipes and playing with them and having a lot of fun. This is something I'm really passionate about and something I wanted to share with you guys at home. So yeah, so it's really simple. Basically the idea is we can either do a hot or a cold one. In this case, we're gonna do a hot one. So I got a nice hot pot of steaming tea here, and we're gonna mix it up with a bunch of different things and make it into a drink. Basically to replace the morning coffee habit, or as a hot chocolate or some form of drink like that. Light and nourishing, and yet strong and robust in flavor and full of minerals and nutrients. So yeah, we like to use a lot of our favorite superfoods, and I've got a few here. I didn't bring a whole lot with me, but I did bring a lot of our favorite ones. So currently, as we start with a pot of water, best water we can use. I've got here, this is our distilled water. It's not spring water, that is ideal, but we use the best water we got, and that's what we have here. So anyway, put that into the pot, make up a pot of tea. Now what kind of tea we use, our base, as we call it, is really important to where we are and what we feel we're trying to get out of the blend, because this is the majority of the blend. So sometimes I use chai when I'm in a cold climate and get that warm spice. I also use chaga as a base. I use a lot of different other types of herbs for our base. In this case, I've used Gynostemma. We have a wonderful Gynostemma tea. It's also considered a longevity tea in Asia. And the reason for this is because the people from the area in which it grew found to be some of the oldest people in the world. It's got a lot of different nutrient benefits, and you can find out a lot more about that either on our website or other places. Yeah, the main reason I like this tea for here is, one, it's got a real sweet and wonderful flavor, but also it's slightly cooling in nature. And so being in a hot climate, we want to use a cooling type herbal base. Now I've also thrown in some goji berries into my tea base. I like to cook goji berries up. A lot of people just eat them, but I find traditionally Chinese have used them both ways, eating them and as part of a tea. So I put them in the tea. Again, a lot of those nutrients are water soluble, so they permeate into the tea base. We give this a light simmer for often between 5 to 20 minutes. Now, I think in this case I've left it on for about 20 minutes, so it should be a little bit sweeter. I've also, near the end, sprinkled on a little bit of our 6 mushroom blend, one of our favorites, and it's basically just a powdered mushroom extract that's been steam activated and therefore made bioavailable. So we put a bit of that in. It doesn't really have to cook because it is more bioavailable, but it's better to put it in the tea in my mind, because then we get less of, I'm a bit of a consistency snob sometimes, so I want less of these fibery bits and less powders coming through my elixir. So I put it in the blend, permeates into the water, and there you have it. That's the blend we're using right now. We used a few different ones on this trip, but that's what we're gonna work with. So basically, we got our tea blend here, and now what we need to do is add in some of the other ingredients. A real important part, we're gonna add this in afterwards, is the fat content, but I just wanted to take a minute here to talk about that. We've got coconut milk and we've got almond milk. So the almond milk is basically a mix of making our own fresh almond milk. It's really simple. You just soak the almonds, throw out the first batch of water, because it's got enzyme inhibitors on the skin that aren't good for you. And so you throw that out and then put another batch in. Typically we'd use like a half a cup of almonds to like a cup and a half to 2 cups of water, depending on how thick and consistent we want it. So I've made a bit here, just fresh a few minutes ago in this NutriBullet, which is a new evolution for me. I'm used to using a Vitamix, but this thing actually works really good. And when we're traveling, it's much more convenient. You just pop it in, blends like that, simple. So yeah, easy to clean, using that for this elixir. We have been all week. All right, so here we go. Let's get started. We got our base here, the tea. We've got our fat, which is our coconut oil we're gonna add in, and our almond milk. Now, I didn't fully go into that. Part of the reason we're adding this fat in is because it adds a bit of matrix to it. We wanna add that deeper matrix that's gonna hold it in the body deeper, as well as make it longer digestion. The longer it takes to digest this drink, the better off we're gonna be. The more assimilatable the nutrients are gonna be. So we add a bit of fat and we whip it up, and it just really also has its own benefits. Okay, first ingredient. Now this is sort of a cheat ingredient in the sense that it's actually a combination. This is called Super Power Blend, and this is a blend of 5 of our favorite tonic superfoods. And really, the reason we did this is because it made a lot more sense to just put them all together instead of have 5 separate packages. I tend to use these ingredients quite regularly, so that was the deal with, let's make a blend that's just got all that together. So basically we have cacao, which is our raw cacao, wonderful, mesquite, lucuma, maca, and vanilla. Now these are all common things that I tend to use in our elixirs. There's not as much maca or vanilla, quite a bit more cacao, mesquite, and lucuma. Now you can learn about all these things or watch another video and we'll talk about them later. So we put in, I tend to be a bit of an intuitive chef, so I just sort of put in a bit here, but for all intents and purposes, we're gonna say for this 1 cup worth, actually this would make enough for, yeah, 1 me or 2 other people maybe, but we're gonna put in, I'd say a tablespoon. So we'll call that a tablespoon of this. You can put in more. Again, this is a taste consistency thing. It depends on how much you want to use. Now, because there's not quite as much vanilla in here, and I really like vanilla in this drink, I'm going to add a little extra vanilla in. And vanilla is just wonderful, especially in this climate. I really seem to dig vanilla a lot more in the hot tropical kind of climate. So we got that. Another one that I really like to add in to a lot of these is true cinnamon. Now this is, or sweet cinnamon is the other name for it. Cinnamomum xylanthicum. Now this is a different type of cinnamon that you typically get in a coffee shop. Basically, most of the research has been done on this cinnamon as being balancing the blood sugar levels. It's got a little sweeter flavor and it's not quite as spicy as the other cinnamon. I would consider the other cinnamon to be better for, say, purging parasites or something along that line. It's a much spicier and could be considered slightly toxic. Now you hear this all over the internet and I don't consider that to be too accurate. Really, you can eat either cinnamon, but this tends to be our favorite. So we'll add in a pinch of that. And now, remember, this is just a basic recipe. I really encourage that you make up your own and keep adding to this and use what you got. So 2 things that I'm a big fan of, and I brought here as some super herbs, are mucuna and faux tea. Now mucuna, this is a mucuna extract. It's a little different. It's a cold water extract, not just a mucuna bean. Now, this is really helpful for brain development and neurotransmitters and just has all kinds of things that the brain will use. So we like to use this as just a way to wake us up and give us that energy. It also has a real nice flavor. So we'll add in you don't need a lot of the mucuna, although sometimes I've made them with quite a bit, but I've added in another, say, teaspoon of that. And faux tea, now the other name is Hishu Wu. Now this is named basically for its fame to increase longevity and give you black shiny hair. So Mr. He's black shiny hair is really what it translates to in Chinese. So yeah, the reason we like this is because it's really good for increasing the Jing of the body. The Jing is something that's housed in the kidneys here, and Chinese medicine has a real sort of special place for Jing because it is the Jing that is almost like our wax of our candle, that slowly melts down over our lifetime, and we need to build that back up, and there's not a lot of foods that do that. Things like cordyceps do that, but the faux tea is, and cordyceps is in the 6 mushroom, by the way, is one of the things that I really like. It has a fairly nice flavor. It has to be cured properly with a black bean wine, but most people are doing that now. It's pretty standard. And yeah, so we got a nice faux tea here. We're gonna add a little bit of that in. Hishu Wu. Don't need tons. Now, a vital missing component so far is the salts or the minerals. So we really want to increase the mineral content always when making a drink like this. So sometimes we'll add in just a pinch of salt. I'll use different fresh sea salts if I can get them, or we have a nice black salt. But you know, I've found over the long term that if I use too much salt, it really throws the drink off. So we're not looking for a salty drink. So if I'm going to do this with salt, it's going to be like only a couple of granules. I'm not looking for a high mineral content of that because I have something else up my sleeve, which is another one of my favorite herbs from the Ayurvedic tradition. It's not really a herb, it's actually a pitch. This is a Shilajit. Shilajit is a mineral pitch from the Himalayan mountains. Basically, you can imagine this stuff is 10,000 or more years of compressed ecosystems that have oozed out of the rocks. They scrape it off the rocks and use it. Now, the reason they started using this is because they saw the monkeys doing this. They were scraping off this tar on the rocks and they thought, that must be good for us. So started to look into it, and there's like up to 73 different minerals in this Shilajit. It's amazing. It's very powerful. It's got something called fulvic acid, which helps to cellular detoxify our body and pull toxins out. So part of this drink is we're going to be pulling toxins out a little bit with the Shilajit. It's been used for over 70 different disease types in India. So, you know, a cure-all, when they don't know what to do, often Shilajit becomes one of the first things to just sort of invigorate and revitalize the body. So we don't need tons of Shilajit either. Probably, again, another half a teaspoon. I'm going to put in a little more than that because I like it, and I've been building myself up. Again, these things having 10,000 years of compressed ecosystems in them, you don't really know what you're getting. So there's all kinds of minerals in there, and the potential to have toxic minerals in small doses is there. So we don't want to use a lot. We just want to use a little bit. It's going to be pulling stuff out of our body and really cleansing and revitalizing us. So here we go. We got our powder mix, and just like making pancakes, you mix all the powders up first, and that's what we've done. Now, before my tea gets cold, I want to talk a little bit about sweeteners. Oh, and tinctures. You can add all sorts of tinctures in. Usually for one drink, 3 droppers full of your choice of tinctures. Try to use tonic herbs, good tasting tinctures. Don't throw a bunch of golden seal in your tonic. That's just not going to taste good. But yeah, so tinctures are great. In this case, I just have reishi, and I'll just do that now. I'll add in 3 droppers full of reishi. Really, I'm as one personal dose. Most of these tinctures are great at like 2 droppers full, but for this case, we're going to do 3. Yeah, so we've got sweetener now. There's a lot of sweetener choices. Some other folks I know really like to use stevia. I'm just not a fan of that. They're concerned about the glycemic index, and we want to make this blend, you know, really glycemically balanced. But in my mind, if I can find a local raw honey, that's what I'm going to go with. Now, this is a honey I bought at the farmer's market here, and I'm just, you know, it looked really good. The first taste I had, it was really good. The consistency of it tells me that it's likely a raw honey, because the pasteurized honey has become much more liquid. So yeah, I've got honey from the local wildflowers here in Mexico, and I'm going to use probably a good, well, that's a little much. Let's use a tablespoon of honey is what I'm going to use. We want this blend to taste good. Now, remember, we're adding in a lot of tonic herbs here. So, that's good honey. So we've got a lot of nutrients in here, but we also want people to drink it and like it and enjoy it. So sweetener of some form is important. Now, I've also tried an amazing new Jerusalem artichoke syrup, which was awesome and worked well. I've used all kinds of different things like coconut sugar. I've also used a little maple sometimes, and I've used a touch of stevia and a touch of other sweeteners. So it's important to sort of pick that out, choose the best that you can, and yeah, go from there. So my coconut oil's hardened a little bit overnight, so I'm gonna have to use a spoon here. But basically, we're gonna use another, say, tablespoon of, well, let's use a little less than that. Little under, say, 3/4 tablespoon of coconut oil. You can use as much as you want. Now, I remember when I was working in the health food store, and all of a sudden there was this huge raid on the coconut oil. We could not keep it in stock. A few years back, basically, it was some big media about coconut oil being amazing for weight loss. And this is true. It's also great for the thyroid. It's great for hormone balancing. But that's from indigenous cultures that used it continually in their life. And they found when they got off that diet, it wasn't. So we're using it a little bit here. And it's going to have some healing benefits. As you will find if you look up coconut, there is amazing benefits to it. We've got our almond milk now. We're going to add a little bit of that in. Sometimes I use a little bit of cacao butter for the fat too. That's another great fat. Now, we don't want to make this, so here we go. We got fresh almond milk, which has got some of that matrix in it, as well as the coconut oil. And then we're going to add in our tea. So there we go, just like so. All right. So like I said, this is easy to tweak and blend and shift and change yourself in any way that you see fit and with the ingredients you have. You don't got to use what I have here, but the more you play with these kind of blends, the better you're going to find the results get. So now really I'm just trying to whip this up and infuse the coconut. And infuse all the different stuff together so I get a nice creamy head on it. When we add these matrix of the minerals with the high fulvic acid, it actually helps to bind the coconut oil and some of the other fats into the drink. So now we have a bit of a cascading effect here with a nice frothy head. So yeah. Ooh. All right. Cheers. Thank you for joining me. That's great. Yeah. That's awesome. So this is the way I like to start my mornings, with a tonic elixir. And yeah, it's a favorite of our families. We've gotten quite a few people into enjoying these, and I hope you try this at home. Have a wonderful day. And once again, I'm Yarrow from Harmonic Arts.